That's, and you mentioned the movies.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming back. We're ready to continue our session about agriculture, aquarium, and fisheries. Next we have Giuseppe Palladini from Sterling University, and he'll be presenting to us a talk about one Italian, many fish, one pathogen, many mini visa. And I believe he has some advanced technology in his talk, so we have high expectations. Giuseppe.
Good morning. So, I really appreciate phylogenetic trees and beautiful trees. And I was sorry because I didn't have one in my presentation, so I had to change last night's presentation to add my personal tree. So, apologize for the rough work. And this is my teamwork tree. And you can see at the base my two supervisors, Andy Sheen and James Brown from Stirling University. And again from Stirling University, you have Scott and my wife and friend and colleague Olga. And then we have above Nick Taylor and Chris Williams. And a bit far away, just for geographical problems, the Norwegians, Okun and Sigurd. So talking about Norwegians, the first parasite that comes to mind is Gerardatus salaris. So Gerardatus salaris is famous for its devastating effects on the Atlantic strain of Atlantic salmon. And since its first introduction, the Norwegian government, the total cost for the Norwegian government between tourism and eradications and surveillance programs is about 500 million euros. So in UK, in the meantime, Ed Piller and colleagues were suggesting that live rainbow trout poses the higher risk for transmission of Gerardatus salaris between countries. So we wanted to know if the countries that were receiving live rainbow trout from other non-positive countries were also positive. So I'm Italian, and given Italy's histories on importing rainbow trout for countries where the parasite was known to be present, like Denmark, we decided to investigate this further. So my story begins in 2005 when I went for the first time in Scotland, lots of hair. And before that I've been traveling to north and central Italy to collect rainbow trout samples. And then I went to Stirling and I identified both morphologically and more regularly. And we found out that the parasite we were dealing with in Italy was actually Gerodactylus salaris. This was the first report of Gerodactylus salaris in Italy. And this parasite was found alongside other 3 species, Theochis, Derjavinoides, and Trote. So the distribution of Gerodactylus salaris across Europe increased by 1, so 22 Gerodactylus salaris records, but 6 of them a bit doubtful, they're yellow. And so far, so we have 16 positive countries, but still is unconfirmed, so I'm still preparing this work. So these findings basically allowed me to get my degree, but before that, I want to point out that UK is the only one to be known as G. salaris free, together with Ireland and some watershed in Finland. So I was saying that this is a great finding for me, because I was really young student. Allowed me to get my bachelor degree in 2005 in Bologna University. Not only that, but also to convince these 3 guys to take me for a PhD program in susceptibility of English and Welsh salmonids to Gerodactylus salaris. So, what do we know about Gerodactylus salaris in UK? I've done my literature review, and I found out that young Andy, in his PhD thesis, sorry Andy,
Hair!
I had to fight back after the pole dance. Plus ongoing government-based surveillance programs, we know that UK is currently free of Gerodactylus salaris. The only other study on British salmonids was made by Buck and Mackenzie 20 years ago, when they took native Scottish salmons to hell. When I say hell, I mean Norway. And they found out that the Atlantic strain of Atlantic salmon from Scotland was highly susceptible to Gerodactylus salaris. So, summarizing, we know from the previous Norwegian studies that Atlantic strain or Atlantic salmon is highly susceptible to Gerodactylus salaris. Brown trout is resistant to GS, but can eliminate the infection within 50 days. And grayling is resistant, but again, in some cases, there is one study where G. salaris can survive for up to 140 days. UK contingency plans, which basically include measures to prevent the spread, contain the outbreak, and eradication programs, are based on the Scandinavian results. So our aim was to give a contribution to these UK contingency plans regarding Gerodactylus salaris by determining the response of the English and Welsh salmonids to the parasite. To do this, we had 2 options. First, take the fish, British fish, to Norway. The other one, bring the parasite from Norway to UK. Of course, you think it's a crazy idea, but we tried the second one. This is what happened.
Good morning. You're watching the News in Focus with me, just in case, and Marshall. Hot news for today. As global temperatures continue to soar, what's best to wear on the beach this summer? Well, Parisian designer Philippe Falot says it's dental floss. That report coming up later. Next, a high-level investigation has been announced today on delegates sleeping at conferences. This initiative was triggered by the alarming 3-fold upsurge in pillow sales during conferences. Next, have you ever seen the skateboarding elephant? Well, meet Winnie, a surprise entrance in a national skateboarding competition. Oh, sorry, just a second. Okay. Breaking news. We have just received an update on the arrest of the famous Italian parasite smuggler. Finally, following an anonymous tip-off and after several hours of hiding, national security managed to stop and arrest the dangerous smuggler, Giuseppe Palladini. He was the first to find a notifiable pathogen, Gyronotus salaris, in Italy, and has now been trying to bring Gyronotus salaris into the UK for his own dirty business. Let's go almost live to the videotape of his capture. Somebody else in the back seat there.
No, that's
A dramatic ending to a long chase and the promising career of arch smuggler Dr. Paladini. Okay, Flukes, that's all for now. You've been watching the news in focus.
So we saw that the second option is not possible. We went for the first one, taking the fish into Norway. So we transferred British salmonids to Norway and test them. We sort out paperwork, fish availability, tank availability, time organization and money, and I can tell you it's not an easy task for my supervisor. So 210 fish were shipped from Wales and England to a secure facility in the Norwegian Veterinary Institute. I was shipped together with the fish. We arrived safely, and then we left them acclimating for 7 days, infected them with G. salaris for 24 hours in order to get a mini infection of 50-70 gyros per fish, lightly anesthetized for 30 seconds, observed under the dissecting microscope, and then the parasite were counted. After the first count, the fish were individually tattooed with a unique code using ISM7, and then transferred to the system. The parasites were counted every 7 days at the beginning and then every 14 days thereafter. Results. This is the Norwegian control. We saw that the parasite number were increasing. After 40 days we had to stop the experiment because the mean infection was about 2,000 parasites per fish. But when we compare with the British salmon, we see that the mean infection of 40 days post-infection is the double, so it's 4,000 parasites per fish. So again, we had to stop because the last week was crazy, the fish was started dying. And of course, there's no any sign of post-controlling, responding to the parasite infection. Different picture you see for brown trout and grading, where you can see the host can manage to control the parasite number, so you have 2 peaks of infection. If we focus on brown trout, the peak was at 12 days, and with a mean infection of 146 parasites per fish. But then we ran the experiment for 110 days, and there was 1 or 2 fish still with few parasites on them. So the fish basically didn't manage to get rid completely from the parasite. Same picture for grayling, but the peak of infection was 1 week later, at 19 days, and with a mean infection almost the double of the brown trout. And again, after 110 days, few parasites were still present on 1 or 2 fish. For stats lover, I have some box and whisker plots here illustrating population dynamics of the same experiment, but in a different graphic. So you have the median between 25th and 75th percentiles, and the 2 whiskers represent the maximum and the minimum. So we also count the parasites on each body part, so not only just the generic number, but we count fins by fins and also the body surface. We see here a similar pattern between the control, Norwegian control with grading. The parasite seems to prefer, be careful here to say seems to prefer, but this is what we can see from these graphs, the pectoral fins. Differently from the graphic in brown trout, we can see that they prefer the caudal fin in some way. But the British salmon went crazy on the last week. Basically, the parasites were so happy last week that they transferred a big number on the body. So this could be explained, for example, as suggested by Bachman and Bresciani, the parasites try to avoid the mucus cells rich areas and basically to escape the localized immune reaction, or simply because the place was too crowded, so they just they didn't have space, so they transferred to the body, they had no space to reproduce faster. In conclusion, the current UK contingency plans are based on the assumptions that dynamics of Gerardatus salaris infection on native British salmons will follow those already tested in Scandinavia. So if we compare the previous Norwegian studies with our study, we can see that the Atlantic strain of Atlantic salmon is highly susceptible like the Norwegian, or maybe more, at least our strain. Brown trout responds to Gerardatus salaris, but after 110 days, GS was still present, a low number. So it's more than the double of what is being reported in literature. So why? Why this? The difference might be explained by the potential genetic differences that they acquired during their isolation from the last glaciation. So here you can see, if you focus on the map, you can see the Scandinavian, the red arrow, and UK, the blue arrow, are in the same ice block. To finish the grading, basically had the same sort of pattern of the brown trout, so responding to GS, but after 110 days, GS was still present at low intensities. So our study confirmed these assumptions. We are happy for that, but we're not so happy because our sum, of course, is susceptible. So, and we suggest the contingency plans in UK may benefit from the clarification about the role of brown trout that plays in the potential spread of Gerardatus salaris, because of course the windows of exposure on brown trout is longer than what's been reported so far in the literature. So we have to monitor also brown trout sites. So, my title, can Gerardatus salaris have the UK visa? No, so it's been denied. Thank you very much.
We've climbed the time out a little bit, but I'll let Giuseppe take a couple of questions. I should have mentioned before that Giuseppe is up for the student award. So, are there any questions? Somebody. Andy.
Where's my fee?
Who wants his money back? I have a question. I actually have a whole bunch of questions. But, so in terms of actual risk of transmission to the UK, where do you think the highest risk actually lies? Do they have this additional information?
UK.
Yeah.
There is another study Andy did with Dave Morris. Basically, they were trying to model British sites where salmon, grayling, and brown trout are normally present, and given, for example, study the pH or several